Welcome to another episode of the Fanzone Podcast, your home for all things Bolton Wanderers, up the Trotters, the Northwest's #1 podcast.
Good evening and welcome to episode 12 of the Fanzone Podcast preview show, where we're joined by our good mate George from the Wycombe Way. George, good evening.
Evening, fellas. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for joining us again, pal. Thank you very much. George will be making the trip up to the Tough Sheet Community Stadium, Reebok, tomorrow night for our home game versus Wycombe. So you're going to have to bear with me tonight because I'm on the controls again and inevitably I will mess up. Colin is using an iPad and no safety net and cannot push any buttons at all, although he often pushes mine.
Oof.
Ooh.
Anyway. Not only Chris's.
It was just too easy to get that in there, Cole, to be honest. Yeah.
Every other member of the podcast as well. So you're not on your own, Chris.
So, without further ado, where are we? Hang on. Let's get into it. So, before I begin, I'd like to, obviously, we've already thanked George. We'll thank him again. Thanks, George. But also thanks to everybody for joining us this evening. Bit of a weird one. Obviously, we had to postpone or cancel or whatever our pod post Northampton yesterday due to unforeseen circumstances.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
There was nothing we could do. To my knowledge, I think that's the first one in 70 odd that we've had to pull. So
Correct.
We'll make it up to you. Don't you worry. So
not that that's an excuse, mind, but still, we apologise. We'll try and not let it happen again. This is the problem when you do these things live, innit?
Exactly. I'm surprised we don't make more mistakes than we do. But thank you for your patience and thank you for joining us this evening. There's a good showing, and what we will do after George has gone through the torture of our preview. No, I'm only joking. After George has left us this evening, we will pick up on the Fanzone fan focus from yesterday to break down a little bit of the goings on at Northampton on Saturday. So
bit of a bonus feature on the old preview show, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like when you used to buy DVDs and you used to get the extra bits at the end, and it's a bit like that, isn't it? If you remember DVDs. Anyway, sorry, George, we're just talking over you, mate. The floor is yours. So, as I say, you'll be making your way up to the Reebok tomorrow night for the 7:45 kickoff. What are your thoughts? What are your expectations? And don't get too carried away because you battered Peterborough on Saturday. George, over to you.
I'm glad you said that because I've got to try and stay in my lane now. Remember where we are in the league or where you guys are as well. We were talking about on our preview show last night that actually this is a good opportunity for us to come to you guys and sort of keep the run of form going. A few poor results for you guys in recent weeks, and we're sort of picking up form at the right time. I've been up to your place twice. I've only seen us win 2-0, and so I'm hoping that'll be 3 times in a row tomorrow. But we know it's going to be a tough game. We're not getting too carried away. Although listening to our fans, you wouldn't believe that. But it's about sort of building on the momentum that we've had in recent games. But also remembering that you guys are where you are for a reason. We're where we are for a reason. But there's no reason why we can't come to you and put in a good shift and hopefully get a positive result.
George, a question on your recruitment. My understanding is that it's been quite a positive January. Can you shed a little bit of light on kind of the players that you've brought in to kind of give Wanderers fans a bit of an insight?
Yeah, very positive. We sent a few players back in January that we brought in the summer. I think we've signed 12 players, and 6 of them have already gone back to parent clubs or been shipped out elsewhere. So that's a big percentage of who we signed in the summer is already out the door. And so we spoke about it, and it sort of reflects Matt Bloomfield's ruthlessness. He's got a cut-throat approach. He knows what he wants. If you're not going to give him that, you're out the door almost immediately. So I guess, for a young manager, that's really, really good to see. We brought in some real quality. Matt Butcher in from Plymouth. He seems like a real big coup. I'm not sure how we've managed to pull that off based on where we are at the minute. Beverly Labala in from Burton. A real big workhorse, but with the quality on the ball to complement that quite nicely. A couple of loanees who have come in to try and get some game time in our environment, and also Nigel Longwyke and Saxon Early, who won the league with Plymouth last season as well. So experience at the top of the league, and also a good mix of loanees who are hoping to come and make an impact. And so very, very positive overall, and sort of no complaints from our end at all.
Just touching on Matt Bloomfield, obviously he's and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I will consider him as a manager kind of learning a little bit, certainly, and trying to learn, but also trying to change the whole Wycombe Way, if you want to call it that. So do you reckon the signings that he made in the summer are quite clearly mistakes, and he's learning based on the signings that he brought in January? Would that be fair to say?
I wouldn't say necessarily mistakes. He's quite clearly done his homework on the players he brought in, trying to play a 5-back formation. I think as the season's gone on and our form has taken a real nosedive, he sort of slowly realised that the 5 at the back is just not going to work with the players we've got. So the players we've sent back, a few centre-backs, a full-back on each side have gone back, and sort of a midfielder who would sort of play in between the lines. And then a 4 at the back system, you don't really need someone like that. So he's sort of learning his trade both in the transfer market and on the pitch. Yeah,
get that impression.
So where he's had to make changes to the formation and personnel, he said he's had adult conversations with players and said, "Listen, you're not going to feature too much second half of the season. It's better for you and for us if you sort of go elsewhere to try and get game time."
Interesting.
Are these players that have gone? You said they've gone back. Have they gone back permanently, or have they gone out on loan? What's the what's the situation there?
So we brought 5 loanees in the summer.
Yeah.
And 4 of those went back in January. The only one still with us is Freddie Potts from West Ham, who is incredible, by the way. We'll go to the very top with no doubt at all. Richard Keogh, we brought in the summer. He's gone on a permanent to Forest Green.
Yeah.
A few players have gone out on loan. There's one more off the top of my head. I can't quite think of it. Who went on a permanent as well. Again, sort of most of them are loanees going back who just don't fit our system anymore. But there are a few players who, whether they're just sort of not up to the level or not going to feature in the formation, have been sent out permanently.
Speaking of players who don't fit formations, getting a lot of questions in the chat about a player who I think, most definitely went with pretty much every supporter's blessing. Stand-up pro, quality player, let's face it. But square pegs, round holes, and that was Kieran Sadlier. Obviously scored on Saturday, but who didn't? After team did. Great finish. He's got that in his locker. He's got a lovely technique. He's a cracking finisher. What's your thoughts on Sads, George? What are you thinking?
We've discussed him for a few weeks now. He seems to be getting better and better. We can't believe that you guys let him go on a free.
No.
For where we're sat and doing it, it's mind-boggling because he's just getting better week on week. Very quickly working his way into our play of the season conversations. He's had that big an effect on the team. He's sort of a player who, whilst he may not fit in your side, he can play across a number of positions. Very versatile in that sense. He played on either side. He can play through the middle. He's even filled in at fullback on a few occasions. But a player who loves to get the ball and drive forward, and we've sort of missed that first half of the season. It took quite a while for him to sort of get his name on the team sheet on a regular basis. But now he's done that, he's just flourishing. He's enjoying his football again, which is great to see, and he's become a real key cog in our team.
Good.
Yeah, I think the reason why we let him go, George, was a few people in the chat had said he just simply didn't fit our system. But Ian Evatt said all along that if a player doesn't want to be at the club, he's never going to stand in the way. And it just kind of fit, obviously, for him on a personal level, but also the club as well. And to be perfectly blunt, and this is me, might be saying a little bit big-headed, but I don't think he'd be good enough to make the step up to the Championship and play with us week in, week out, which is obviously where the club wants to go and be. That's only my opinion, bear in mind. I'm sure people will have different opinions about Kieran Sadley because he is a talented footballer, but yeah, probably a combination of kind of all three of them elements are the reason why we've probably let him go.
Yeah, just showed a couple of comments there from Jack and Leslie saying much the same thing. The signing was right at the time when we picked him up from Rotherham, but for whatever reason it didn't work, and an amicable agreement was made that made sure that he got the opportunity to play. And it's, as I say, I don't think there's any
sorry
from our part at all. Good lad.
No, just to add to that, George, as well, for your knowledge, and I'm sure you'll be aware of this, but Kieran sadly is quite a new recent dad, so he had a little boy.
He's about 18 months old now, isn't he?
Yeah, whilst he was with us, so maybe obviously on a personal level, maybe he wanted to be further down south to near his family, possibly as well. There's all sorts of things like that to take into consideration. But yeah, there are several reasons why we let him go, I think.
Yeah, but no, it's good to see. It's good to see. It can take that time though, can't it? Because obviously Sads has been knocking around League One, League Two, bit of Championship, and it's just not quite worked out for him for whatever reason. And it does sometimes take that, doesn't it? 3 or 4 kind of sideways moves, upwards moves, downwards moves to get that right fit, the right manager, the right environment. So, no, fair dues to him. But obviously, that name comes up again, doesn't it? I see he's your second top scorer, and he's been a thorn in our side in recent years, Mr. Vokes.
Still going strong.
Still, second top scorer with 2 assists. Has he been influential this season for you, George?
Yeah, I mean, 4 goals, 2 assists. It's not crazy numbers, but he offers so much more than goals and assists.
Yeah.
As a complete forward, I'm sure if he still had the legs, he'd be playing Premier League football or Championship at least. Just his pace lets him down, but his football awareness is a level above League One. The way he can bring a ball down and bring others into play is exceptional. I think he'll be the first to admit that he's not too pleased with his goal output this season. I think that the first year he was with us, he hit 18 or 19. I think 10 or so last season. So, there's been a sort of steady decline. But again, that's going to come with age, isn't it? And a different manager this season, but still very influential. I think we've tried at times to maybe play a younger striker up front, but we always end up reverting back to Vokesy because you know what you're going to get with him. It's the same every week.
I was going to say, George, you were at the beginning of the season, from memory, he wasn't starting many games, was he, Sam Vokes? Is he starting games now or not?
So at the start of the season, we had just a very obvious goal scoring issue. We weren't taking chances at all. We were dominating teams, playing really good football, but just weren't scoring. And Sam Vokes, I don't think he played the first few games, but he was part of that issue. So as we sort of approached the end of the summer window, we were sort of saying we need to get a striker in. Never happened. And then sort of Sam Vokes hit a really rich vein of form. Again, not necessarily goals-wise, but in terms of his all-round play, it was really, really good again. I think, peaks and troughs, he sort of had a few good games and then dipped again. But again, you aren't going to get that at this level. If you had a player consistently performing week in, week out, they wouldn't be playing in League One.
No,
that's it, yeah.
Very, very, very important for the Bolton fans watching this to remember that when you're thinking about Dion Charles, because he's going through a little bit of a rough spell at the moment in front of goal. And there's a reason for that, and there's a reason why he's not scoring 20-odd goals in a season straight away, because he's obviously playing in League One. We always try and harp on about that, because you've got to give players a little bit of leeway. I think we do expect a lot from some of the players at this level, in my opinion.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, Sam Brooks has played Premier League football. He's played the Euros of Wales 7-8 years ago. There's a reason he's now at Wycombe Wanderers. He's not in the highs he was every week, but he still does a job in our team. He's still a pain in the arse for defences. And while he's continuing to play well, he's still going to get minutes, score goals, and he's a real vital part of our team.
You'll probably miss him, won't you, when he hangs his boots?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
He's Danny, one of our viewers, makes a really good point. The type of player that is a nightmare for Rico Santos. Obviously, Rico is still out injured. But yeah, he's just, I think it's that level of experience. It's not a pace thing, not necessarily a strength thing. It's just that knowledge and awareness of how to get under a centre half skin and movement, positioning, body positioning, etc. He has been a real thorn in our side. So we will see. So currently sat at the moment, George, 15th in League One. So you've won 9, drawn 10, lost 11, goal difference of -1. What's your view on the season so far? So obviously we've already touched on the kind of the transitioning from the Ainsworth Wycombe now through to what is very much a Matt Bloomfield team. How would you rate your season so far?
I think it's about what we were expecting. It's a big change to go from a manager of 10 years to a manager with 2 or 3 months experience. It's a massive, massive change. There was, you get those people who want playoffs at least. And if we're not top 3, they're going to be disappointed. It happens at every club. But I think anyone with half a brain cell knew it was going to be a difficult season. I'd say we're underperforming based on league position ever so slightly. If you look at the expected goals and points tables, we're way higher than that, 7th, 8th. But I mean, the thing is with expected goals, it's a game of sticking the ball in one net and keeping it out the other. If you're not doing that, it doesn't matter what else you do around the pitch, because that is the aim of the game. So I suppose there's, swings and roundabouts. We're where we are for a reason. But there's clear signs that Bloomfield is going in the right direction. Performances the last 5 or 6 weeks have improved massively. And if we can sort of get our run of form together, hopefully we'll sort of be in that top half come May or April, is it actually this season?
Yeah, end of April, yeah. Sorry, just for our viewers, that this little segment should have been accompanied by a little video mid-roll and a bit of music, but we're just freestyling tonight, so just go with it. Yeah. No, that's fair. I think,
Just to add as well, to the people, and there's plenty of comments going in the chat as well, Chris. I want to pay reference to that.
Yeah, there is. Let's pick out a couple.
Big thanks to the 30 odd people watching live at the moment across the platform. So thank you.
Yeah, the chat is very, very busy. So let's dive into it. A question for you, George, from Jack Halliwell. What do you think has caused Wycombe to drop off? You were playoff contenders every season and eventually got up, then come back down and was still competitive in and around the top 6. Would you say that is down to the change in management and the overall sort of change of the Wycombe way?
Almost definitely. Our team was never, ever good enough to go up. I mean that in the nicest way possible, but we went up because of Ainsworth. The culture he built, the kind of bloke he was, he'd have, League Two players running through brick walls in the League One. Most of the squad now from the Championship season are now playing League Two football, which just goes to show the effect that Ainsworth had on those players. I think our team now is better than it was on paper. But, in the utmost respect to Bloomfield, a rookie manager is not going to get those players' performance those levels. hopefully in a few years' time we're back up there performing. But it was always going to be difficult, and the squad is so different now. To expect a playoff push again this season would have been absurd. And so I think it's fair enough where we are. A decent, comfortable League One finish, and hopefully a trip to Wembley to look forward to is a really good season actually.
What do you think? Just going, it's a bit of a tangent, this, but obviously he was associated and he was your manager for so long. I mean, what was it? 10 years, Gareth Ainsworth. From a personal perspective, what do you think's gone on? Obviously, his time at QPR was nothing short of disastrous. From the moment he walked through the door and got the guy in doing the hacker and all that kind of stuff. If anybody's not seen that, don't watch it because it's the cringiest thing I think I've ever seen.
No,
but considering his success at Wycombe, getting the opportunity to go into QPR and play and manage a team that he played for, what do you think's gone wrong there?
Completely different ballpark, completely different clubs at completely different levels, and he's gone into the QPR job and tried to do the exact same he did at Wycombe. He's trying to work with no budget at all. He's trying to build up a culture that just isn't there. Even at QPR, where the the lower end budget wise, you've still got players on 15-20 grand a week. At Wycombe, our highest owner is 3 or 4. It's a completely different culture. But he's trying to go into a job where there's so much expectation, where he's used to absolutely nothing at all. We could have got relegated in League One any of the seasons, and he'd have still been like the second coming of Christ. We adored the man, and he could do no wrong. But he's a real baptism of fire at QPR, who were struggling anyway. So we really needed someone to go in there and change results very quickly. But he went in there. He went in there with a mindset of, okay, this is a project, and I'm going to take 3 or 4 years to get it to where I want to be. But it just wasn't never going to happen. He had to go in there, get results quickly, and he just didn't do that.
What do you think could be next for him? I see he got mentioned with the Port Vale job recently, but because he needs to be.
He did an interview a few weeks ago saying he's going to concentrate on his music career if nothing comes about urgently. He goes to Vegas once a year with his band, the Cold Blooded Hearts or something.
That's it.
Music if you're into that kind of punk rock kind of side of it, but not my cup of tea. But he did say, if the right job doesn't come about quickly, it's going to take a few years out to do that. But the guy must be 10 years in one job, and then a really difficult, what if it was 6 months, if it was generous to him. It's a lot to take.
It is.
I can see that Port Vale job fitting for him.
I could. As soon as I saw his name mentioned against it, exactly the same call. I can see that.
I mean, he's a cult hero at Vale as well, but he's got to go somewhere where there's, again, no expectation.
Yeah.
Port Vale at the minute, if they go down, most of their fans are going to accept that and be not happy with it, but it is what it is.
With all due respect, and I do mean this in the nicest possible way. Please don't take any offence. But what he created at your place was that horrible. Is it horrible? It is not.
We were the underdogs.
Difficult, wasn't it?
Exactly.
We were always the underdog. No one expected us to do anything. We were the team that would go out and just bully other teams off the pitch. There was
you play to your strengths, don't you? And it's for that manager to get that out of you, like Allardyce did with us back in the day. What are your views on Ebbott, George?
Sorry, what was that?
What are your views on Ian Ebbott?
I think he's quite similar to Gareth Ainsworth. He's very vocal, both on the touchline and in his presses. He's very much you get into your position, you hurt him, you bully him off the park. I don't want to say that Bolton aren't a technical team, but you've got a lot of big lads in there. There's always a battle on the pitch, and it's the same kind of principle. If you can't play a team off the park football-wise, you go in there and you make it difficult for your opposition rather than make it easy for yourself.
And what were your thoughts on the reverse fixture back in, when was it? October, was it? Yeah.
I mean, it was a sort of the point of the season where we were building momentum again.
Yeah.
And sort of going 2-0 down, you almost not expected it, but you were probably top of the league at that point, if not second or third again. And so to go 2-0 down, it wasn't a negative. No one was worried. But the way we sort of clawed it back to 2-2, you sort of thought, okay, here we go. This is a season. It was 70 minutes. It was 2-2. You're thinking, oh, here we go. We're going to win the game. Poor subs. I think that game cost us. I think Richard Keogh came on to sort of try and see out a 2-2 draw, which was never ever going to happen. I mean, he lost the foot race to Cameron Jerome. I don't think many defenders can say they've done that in the last 10 years.
It does take some doing. It's quite an achievement. I remember it very, very well.
It was the slowest foot race ever.
Yeah, it was just like something of, what was that program called? What was it called that Stuart Hall used to do back in the day? I'm showing my age now.
Block me on that one, Chris.
No, they used to all be dressed up in these huge costumes, and they used to lollop around like at 2 miles an hour.
Anybody in the chat? Help Chris.
It's probably one for David. That one. What was that program called that Stuart Hall used to present? Oh, probably shouldn't mention his name. It's a Knockout. That was it. I remembered. And there used to be people dressed up in huge monster costumes that used to be so slow across the floor. It did remind me very much of that. It was although Cameron does have a burst of pace, as we keep mentioning, but
I think I don't. Next to Keogh.
Say again.
I think anyone would look quick next to Richard Keogh.
Yeah, he probably did him some favours. I don't see a similar. I mean, I'd love the same result tomorrow night. I don't see it. I think looking at your results and looking at your form since that night, it's very much been a turning of a corner, really, hasn't it?
There's no hiding from it. It's an awful run of form. 3 wins in 18. But actually, Bloomfield's spoken about fine margins, and he's got a bit of stick for it. Because people are saying, oh, yeah, how can you have fine margins 15 times out of 18 games? But actually, we've not been beaten by more than 1 goal since September. Yeah.
Right.
And so, we're in every game. There's a lot of late goals going against us. I need sort of 3 hands to count the games we've lost in the last 10 minutes this season. It's just it's a weird old season. We've not been playing badly, but we're just not picking up points. And that's ultimately the aim of the game.
George. Quick question. Obviously, scoring 5 past Peterborough is, no mean feat by any stretch of the imagination. Did that game, might be a daft question, but did that game kind of take it out of your lads, be it physically and emotionally? Because obviously that's a great result that against a very good Peterborough side. I know they've got a couple of injuries and whatnot, but still a cracking result. So is there a concern for your lot going to our place tomorrow, which of course again is going to be a very difficult physical and mental game for you, that could have an effect possibly?
I don't think it's wiped us out per se. I just hope it doesn't give us too much confidence. Yeah. It's only 1 win in the last. I mean, there's now 3 wins in 18, but it's only 1 more victory in that time. So I hope it doesn't sort of put us on too much of a high. There's still a job to do this Tuesday, and we're still really in a relegation fight. We can always get sucked back into it with 3 or 4 negative results. So I guess it's, Ainsworth was very good at it. Never too high, never too low. And I'm sure that Bloomfield sort of echoing the same message. Peterborough didn't play badly on Saturday. We just blew them away. We were exceptional.
Didn't they have like 60 or 70%? I mean, it's not all about possession, as we know. But didn't they have like 60, 70% of the possession?
I think most of it was passing around the back, passing sake, which I think played into our hands because their goalkeeper, terrible with his feet, absolute gash.
I believe so.
He gave us 3 of our goals from just passes. I think the Peterborough fans after the game were saying, "Oh, we'll set up a GoFundMe account to terminate his loan." They have had enough of him. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. It was quite clearly a tactic of ours to let them have the ball in defence, give it back to the goalkeeper, and then rush as a unit.
Yeah.
And it paid off countless times. I mean, I lost count of times he just booted it into touch, or gave it to our attackers. It was just constantly making errors.
That should be ringing a few alarm bells. That Wanderers fans.
It's exact same thing just crossed my mind. Well, in fact, that's brilliant timing. That let's dive into this. And no, we still don't know why Kermit the Frog appears on that graphic. So,
I don't think we ever will.
We'll go into our injuries in a moment. But George, if you'd like to lead the way and just go through what your anticipated team will be tomorrow night in terms of any personnel that's missing, etc.
Off the top of my head, it's a fully fit team. Other than Josh going in the middle, which a few weeks ago would have been a massive, massive miss. But with Matt Butcher coming in, it's sort of, it's still a big miss. It leaves a gaping hole, but it's not as crucial as it would have been weeks ago. And so I can see it being largely unchanged to Saturday. The only change I'd make is Vokes coming back in. He had a slight knock going into the game, which meant Kone started up front. But I'd imagine Vokes will get the nod again, assuming he is fit to go. But yeah, I can't think of too many players carrying knocks, or certainly ones that would start the game anyway. I think it is Josh Scowen, but other than that, I think we've got a full squad to choose from.
Interesting.
All right, just a minute.
Well, with that in mind, I'll go through ours now.
Yeah, go on, Colin. Are you sitting comfortably, George? Because this could take a while.
Bear in mind, though, George, we've still got a pretty impressive squad, so it's not the end of the world. We have got these injuries. So Ricardo Santos is back on the grass today, according to Ian Ebbett, but tomorrow's game against Wycombe will come too soon. Expect him to be fit for Charlton at home on Saturday, I would suspect, which will be music to our ears, I would suspect, as well. Randall Williams is still out with a hamstring injury. I would hope that he will be back, hopefully, before the end of the season. Nathan Baxter is, well, Ian Ebbett said that we'll have to be a bit cautious with him, which confused me slightly.
I reckon he'll play tomorrow,
Yeah,
I really do. I think he's at it again, Ebbett, with his...
Yeah, I do. You're either injured or you're not. I don't get the cautious thing. You know what I mean? Like, we need to be cautious with him. It doesn't make any sense. So, yeah. And the reason why we alluded to the fact that there should be alarm bells is because our backup goalkeeper who played against Northampton at the weekend, George, isn't the best with his feet from what we saw on Saturday. Yeah. So hence why we were saying it might be alarm bells type of thing. So hopefully Baxter starts tomorrow. He's been absolutely colossal for us this season. Dan and Lunderloo, again, long-term, another hamstring injury. There's a theme here, George. George Johnson is out long-term for the full season, did ACL in the summer. George Thomason is suspended because he keeps losing his head every time he plays and getting either booked or sent off, which for such a talented footballer, he needs to sort that out. And finally, another hamstring injury, Will Forrester, which...
Have you mentioned Randall Williams?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, cheers. I'm just crossing them off as you're going along. Cheers.
Yeah, you're all right.
It's a long list.
Pretty much an 11 that for a lot of people.
Good 11.
But, yeah, exactly that. But Will Forrest is a bit of a head scratcher because he came back from injury in terms of shaking off his hamstring strain. Did a bit of warming up in the last game against Barnsley, and then he was nowhere to be seen on Saturday against Northampton, be it in the squad or be it kind of travelling with the first team. So we don't know what's happening there. Maybe he will be available tomorrow. Maybe
I'm sure he was there on Saturday. I could have sworn I saw
I weren't there, so he might have
been.
Don't at me, please. But yeah, Will Forrest would be ideal if he's back tomorrow because I think we're missing a bit of continuity in defence. I think the new lads need to take a little bit of time to bed in a little bit, don't they? Excuse me. So yeah, that's our injury list. So yeah, but we've still got plenty of other players that'll be absolutely fine, John.
I think on a positive note, from a leadership perspective, something that we were missing and was highlighted against Barnsley with their goal. I thought the introduction or reintroduction, should I say, Gethin Jones was much needed. I'm not saying he had the game of his life, but just from an organisational point of view, exactly communication, etc. Turned it around second half against Northampton on Saturday.
So we had a couple of players, George, away in the Asia Cup and the African Cup of Nations. So for the Wycombe fans watching, Gethin Jones played for Australia in the Asian Cup. Mm-hmm. That's who Chris is alluding to. So yeah, we're getting players back slowly but surely. Good times when they all come back anyway. Hell of a headache.
Yeah, that's it. After the storm and all that. So that just about wraps up part 1 of this evening's podcast. George, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
As always is appreciated. Thanks for coming on. I was going to wish you good luck for tomorrow night, but I'd be lying.
Good luck for the season. Good luck for the season.
For the rest of the season, absolutely. I think it's important to always mention this, and I'm not going to harp on that we should be grateful that we've still got a club, but by the same token, I don't think we should ever forget the gestures that were offered to Bolton Wanderers as a football club by Wycombe Wanderers when we were at our lowest. So,
our time of need.
Indeed, yeah. There were no better fans out there, so absolute hats off, but we're not going to do you any favours because of that tomorrow. I hope not, anyway. Bloody hell.
And in the nicest possible way, George, I hope we don't see you next season.
I think I can echo that, actually.
Yeah. We do mean well.
It's about some you got back out there, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well. To be honest, though, I think from a club of Wycombe's, size and an expectation, I think getting rid of the likes of Bolton, Pompey, and Derby, I think that's what you want because if a Rotherham dropped in, for example, you've probably got a better chance of competing with them. Do you get what I mean? So you want rid. I think if I was a Wycombe fan, that's kind of my mindset.
Yeah. But definitely not Derby. We want them down there for as long as possible.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair dues. And Peterborough because you absolutely batter them. So
every time.
Exactly. So, George, again, thank you. Safe travels tomorrow night. And I'm about to remove you. So if you could brace yourself, I'll try and make it as painless as possible. So all the very best, sir.
Cheers, fellas. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Right, you're going to have to bear with me, ladies and gentlemen, as I have to change brands and banners and, oh, my word. In fact, I'm just going to take the overlay off, I think. So I don't think we've got a two-col, have we?
We'll go black. We've got black.
We'll go to that. Nice and simple. So,
just like
as I say, yeah, a bit of a strange one tonight, obviously, with yesterday being postponed.
We do apologise about that. Honestly, it was very, very much unprecedented circumstances. So we'll try and ensure that never happens again.
So, what better way to make it up to you than with a little bit what I was meant to say with a little bit of Callum. So just following on from George's little segment there with us as part of the preview, let's get Callum on.
Come on, Callum.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the Fanzone Podcast. I am back without my turkey teeth, by the way. I saw that comment. I mean, I'll take it as a compliment at the end of the day. But if you think I can afford turkey teeth, wow, you are severely mistaken. But anyway, let's forget about all that crap. Let's get on to the footy. So, Wycombe on Tuesday night. They're a good team, obviously. They're a decent team. At home, obviously. So, it's about Wycombe. They've scored 40 goals from exactly 40 XG. And I mean, that is just a bit mental, to be fair. Exactly. The goals from exactly the XG. Anyway, away from home, they've won 4, drew 5 and lost 6. So, not bad, about average. I mean, to be fair, they are a very just average team. Even for goals scored and conceded, they've They score 1.3 goals per 90 and concede about 1.4 goals. So, it's just, you get what you get. Sometimes they turn up, sometimes they don't. But they're about average. Bolton will dominate the ball like normal, even with Thomason being a mug. I mean, that was just, what's he doing? But anyway, let's forget about that. Wycombe have won 8 penalties this season, which is actually second in the league, so you'll have to be careful when defending in the box. But they have only kept 6 clean sheets this season, which is 18th in the league, and that is probably because the keeper only makes 2.2 saves per game. I mean, that is just awful. That. Unless you're like Min and no one has a shot at you, then that is just crap. So have a dig. It might go in. Luke Leahy, apologies for the pronunciation. He's probably the best player from left back. He scored 7 goals and 5 assists this season. I mean, from left back, that's a bit outrageous. He's the best fullback in the league statistically for goals, expected goals, shots on target, accurate long balls and ball recoveries. So in other words, he's just quite good. He is a very well-rounded player, and stopping him will be crucial in the outcome of this game. Of course, the battle of the Wanderers. Will Bolton be tested, or will it be a walk? See what I did there? In the park? No. Enjoy the podcast,
I don't know where he's going with that.
Callum. Wander. That's what he meant.
Oh, sorry. It's been a long day. He's too sharp for me, is Callum.
Yeah, too young. Too young,
clearly. Yeah. No. Thank you, Callum, for that. Yeah. So no more jibes about Callum's turkey teeth, please. We don't pay him that much that he can afford the same dental clinic as Mr. Everett.
Yeah.
So, right. Without further ado,
your favourite bit?
Cole's favourite bit.
My favourite bit.
It's mine as well, I think. Let's get it on.
The old Fanzone fan focus.
Indeed, mate. Indeed. Before we dive in, just want to mention that we have recently on social media informed you that we will be doing the Tough Sleep or the Sleep Out under the stars at the Tough Sheet Stadium, which obviously is for 4 fantastic charities, all centered around the same. I mean, it's horrific, isn't it? Homelessness.
I don't even know how and why this. I don't understand. Yeah,
shouldn't be happening.
More things
this just. I think it's just wise to make it clear that every single penny goes to the charities involved. We're doing this purely to raise money. It's not going to fund anything that we're doing.
No fancy graphics, anything like that.
No, it's not going to be doing that. It's every single penny. So whatever you can contribute, and I know it's not easy. Times are hard and all that, but it's certainly a very, very good cause. So I will put the link back out this evening across our socials. I was going to do it in the chat, but unfortunately, I don't have the technology to do so because I use a different laptop. So I can't simply copy and paste. So I will drop that in our socials later. If you could go onto the Just Giving page and drop some dough in there.
Honestly, it's 50p, a quiz, anything.
Anything. It all goes towards it. So,
anything you can afford.
Yeah. So there you go. Right. So on with the show. So we're not going to go into too much detail, but inevitably what we're going to talk about will look at Saturday's game at Northampton and some flashpoints from that. We're not going to dissect the game. Our first topic is quite simple, and it's 2 words. George Thomason. This sparked a lot of debate, a lot of controversy, some comments, not from present company, but across social media that I thought were harsh, rash. But I understand it, because I have to say, at the game on Saturday, I thought it was a moment of madness. I thought it was daft. But on reflection, maybe there's a little bit more to it, or maybe there's not. So the point was raised by. This will tell you exactly how topical it was. The point was raised by David, by Brandon, by Jack Halliwell, and by Vintage White. And it's when we talk about George and his potential role. Sorry, I sounded a bit Alan Partridge then, didn't I? His potential role as a captain of Bolton Wanderers Football Club. So we'll start on David's take on it, which I like. I always encourage, as you know, putting some data around it, some stats around
Back
it.
it up.
Yeah, back it up. Back it up. Doesn't lie.
Show your workings out. Show your workings out, as he used to say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, show the class. So David did. So George Thomason, a card every 150 minutes. 3 goals and 4 assists. So what do we compare him to? I think his comparison, and I can see where he's gone with it, because he's probably comparing him to the most similar player in our midfield, which is Kyle Dempsey, in terms of how they play. Similar, close as you can get.
Yeah.
Kyle Dempsey, a card every 337 minutes.
Right. Okay.
So that's an easy one to work out from 150. Again, 3 goals.
Yeah.
But 6 assists. And obviously, George, whilst he has been suspended for games, Kyle obviously went missing due to injury. And to be fair, he's struggled a little bit to come back. He's shown flashes of the same player that we saw at the start of the season, who was irreplaceable. But just as a comparison, a like-for-like comparison, and David's point is, maybe it's a little bit too soon for George. I don't think that's in question. It's only 4 years ago that he was playing at Longridge. So his improvement curve is pretty steep. Brandon, and his point, also agrees with that it is maybe a little bit too soon for him. Look, it's a big role with a lot of expectations to captain Bolton Wanderers Football Club. Look at the 2 players who are involved in those roles at the minute, in Ricardo Santos and Gethin Jones as captain and vice. They've had to earn it. But don't dismiss him, is I think the point we're trying to make here. It then moves on to another flashpoint from Saturday.
Can I just speak about that there? I was listening, of course I was, but I was I was doing some bits and pieces whilst you were talking. Now, as a comparison, and I do understand the comparison, the Kyle Dempsey and George Thomason, but Kyle Dempsey is 28 years old. He's played 332 EFL games. George Thomason's 23 years old and played 94 EFL games. So we're talking in comparisons. My main take to that is, yes, he needs to stamp this way out of his game as quickly as he possibly can, because he's going to start becoming a target from the officials. But, and this is a big but, the lad is learning every single week.
Yeah.
and he's evolving into a very, very, very good centre midfielder.
I think a lot. Sorry, Cole. I'm just putting that comment up on the screen because I think it kind of typifies the feedback out of the chat where Joshua says he's a good player but needs a bit more discipline, which is exactly what you're alluding to there, Cole. I don't think you can disagree with that.
No, it's 5 years. It's 5 years his junior, and you can tell from the way that he holds himself in games. Demps and the difference in George. But there's under no illusions that George Thomason is a great young footballer. Just needs to add two things to his games: add goals and remove this rational play out of his game and just manage his game a bit better. We have to be very careful because his father watches and listens to this podcast, so we don't want to upset him.
Andy, I think one thing that I take from Andy's comments, and I read them with interest, is that I think he's the same as a lot of the other parents of the players who we've spoken to, where it's, if it's sensible, logical, balanced comments as opposed to, he's a
that's why.
Whatever, you know what I mean? That solves nothing. Make him rash, impulsive.
Yeah.
It's a critique because we want to see him do well.
Yeah.
And I think if you see it from the perspective that how many boxes has he ticked versus how many has he not ticked, his progress has been phenomenal. And just the fact that we're comparing him to a player like Kyle Dempsey, as Tropical Wanderer mentions, Kyle Dempsey was the Gillingham captain. He
was.
So regardless of the team and the level that they're at, or whatever it might be, no disrespect to Gillingham, he was their club captain. So putting him in the same context, and also this is a very valid point from regular viewer, Radic Selectai, we have been offered good money for him, so no doubting he has talent that other clubs can see. That £1 million bid, is what, 6 months ago now? It was August. I imagine that his value has increased and his stock has increased. And I think it's also worth mentioning this as well, Cole. Sorry, what Joshua says here. Thing is, we know the refs aren't good in this league. Why make these silly challenges? And I think you do have to legislate for that. That we've all seen it. And when I say all, I think if you look at comments from all EFL fans and specifically League One fans, the quality of officiating in this league has not been great.
To add to that, I think he has got a disciplinary issue. There's absolutely no doubt about that. We all know that. I'm sure he'll know it. But with regards to Saturday and that challenge that he made, which was, from what we've seen on iFollow and all the rest of it, pretty reckless and dangerous. I think a little bit of it was the emotion and the hyped up energy of someone who's been out of the team, who's been used to playing, concerns over the fact that he's got players over his shoulder that'll take his spot in the team like that. So all these emotions are live, aren't they, in the moment? We've gone 1-0 down as well. So it's not, I don't think it's as easy as saying, why is he making them challenges because the rest is shit? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to go on.
It's not as simple as that. I think thinking about it, being at the game, seeing it happen, and then seeing somebody present it to me on an iPhone at half time. I was fuming. I've got to admit, I was angry about it. I thought it was unnecessary. And then watching it back and also listening to Ian Everett's pre-match comments for tomorrow night, where he refers to him being sent off, as in Everett being sent off, and Thomason, that he was right in front of it. And he was clearly right in front of it. And the fourth official clearly said that it wasn't a red, that he'd actually taken the ball. These are comments from the officials, not me. This isn't my opinion.
Well, that'll be included in the referee's report as well.
Exactly. And when we looking at this subject, it moved into the Everett sending off on Saturday. Again, straight away, my thoughts were, how's George going to learn if who he's learning from is also guilty of indiscipline? And that is that was my thought process at the time.
The thing is with that, though, the argument with that, I do get the logic of thought, but this is a problem across the whole of the 92 teams in the league, all 4 of the leagues.
Yeah,
managers are getting sent off left, right, and centre for minimal things.
Yeah.
And also take into consideration that yes, this instance was Everett, but in the past with Everett's bad disciplinary, when a referee sends a manager off, not always is he getting sent off because of the manager. They do a thing now where, say the physios go at the one of their players or the 4th official or whatever. The physio doesn't get sent off, the manager gets sent off, so it looks bad upon the record.
Yeah.
Everton's gaffer at the weekend was suspended, weren't he? We've had managers left, right, and centre, they proper tightened up on it. So I don't really necessarily buy into that.
No.
Ian Everett's got a poor disciplinary record.
Let's put it into context. Okay, from the outside looking in, Ian Everett's been sent off twice this season. Okay, the first instance, brilliant timing, Jack Halliwell.
Yeah.
Correct. In the first instance where he was sent off, it was for misuse of technology.
For the first
ever time that reason has been used to dismiss a club manager because he referred to looking at footage on an iPad. Absolutely ridiculous. So let's just put a little bit of context around this. Cheers for that, Jack. That's great timing. Secondly, if you've watched Ian Everett's pre-match press conference for tomorrow night's game against Wycombe, where he refers to this, and he explains that he articulated the reason why he disagreed with George Thomason sending off without using bad language or offensive language or raising his voice, etc. Maybe there is a little bit more to it. He questioned the consistency of the referee, and the term he actually used was he wasn't prepared to be accepting of mediocrity. And I think that is a very, very valid point. And I mean, it is subjective, but Craig Barnes' comment here, the referee on Saturday was the worst I've seen in a few seasons. That said, I think it was a borderline red card. The fact is, was an away game probably swayed the officials. And I think the reason why I raised that is exactly what Ian Everett referred to, the balance in terms of how it was influenced. And I think we've seen a lot of cases of this. I don't want to get too bogged down in the weeds, but I think we've seen a lot of this season where an incident has been influenced by a bench's reaction or a reaction in the stands.
The referees aren't strong enough, are they? That's the thing.
No.
They're not strong enough at the top level, so they're definitely strong enough at this level.
They're not decisive enough, and I think the assistants are a prime example. The number of times that you will see an assistant give a decision, you watch very, very rarely. Very, very rarely, and I think it really is a problem in this league. And I'm not just saying this isn't a Steve Evans type victimization rant. This is a carte blanche sort of review of officials at this level. It's poor.
To add to Leslie's point, they are swayed by the crowd, but we get more benefits in that than more than any other club in the league. So you think about how many instances this season or previous seasons at this level where we as a crowd have influenced them referees. They're just poor. It's as simple as that. It's not their fault. They're working 9 to 5, and then they're expected to perform in front of thousands of people on a Tuesday and a Saturday. It just needs addressing. The money isn't the infrastructure. The money isn't distributed properly across all 4 divisions, so they can fund full-time referees across the EFL.
And there's no review process. There's no panel that reviews officials' performance at this level. So they're not accountable. And I think that...
The thing is as well, Howard Webb has got his hands full, hasn't he, with VAR. We aren't a priority. We're just going to have to suck it and get on with it, basically.
No, exactly. I think there was an interesting comment earlier, which I'm just trying to find. There we go. And again, from Radix, how many blue cards been getting? John Thomas been getting? Wow, I really don't know. But in better news, both decisions are under review and scrutiny. Ian Evatt will be on the touchline tomorrow night for the home game against Wycombe.
Does that mean that George plays?
No.
Or is he suspended
it was
full
a straight
stop?
red. Yeah.
So they'll make a decision on that pretty soon then. They'll need
to. Yeah. So maybe it could be overturned before tomorrow night's game. I know it's been lodged and it does tend to... I mean, God, do you remember the time when we had... I think, did we have 4 on the banks last season?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
That were all overturned.
Yeah, and that one won't be. Unless the report says something completely what we all missed, then I'll be very surprised if that... I mean, that's very interesting what you're saying about the 4th official saying it weren't a red in the speaker.
Yeah. Not a red was the exact words he used, seemingly.
Yeah, that needs to be in the report, so that'll be interesting when they deliberate it, I guess.
Ash, so Evatt has been overturned. No, it's been reviewed, but because it was 2 yellows, he will be allowed in the dugout tomorrow night.
So obviously, if it gets overturned, then he'll be back in the dugout for the Charlton game. Yeah. But if not, he'll miss that one. I'm surmising. That's
exactly it.
Yeah.
So under review currently, but that's in the hands of the powers that be. And we'll close this evening with quite a general topic, really, which is current state of where we're at. There's so many contributing factors: injury, suspension as it is now, new players coming into the fold. So we'll just touch on it sort of around the edges. Again, this is from Jack Halliwell, Daniel Buttery, and a few others. And I think Jack's point comes from how we definitely deployed a plan B on Saturday in the second half, and we had to, obviously being down to 10 men, the goal down away from home. Threadbare into
the back, haven't you?
Yeah, he changed the way that we played with a back 4. Mendes Gomez obviously making a difference in getting the equaliser, getting going out to where he's more comfortable as right wing back. I thought he looked really
not according to Australian fans, he's not.
No, well, yeah. So will Ian Evatt consider a 4-3-3 using Mendes Gomez and Aaron Collins? I thought
no, he won't.
Aaron Collins,
he won't.
Again, as he did on his debut, albeit 22 minutes or 25 minutes, should I say, against Barnsley. He got a little bit more time on Saturday, and I thought he looked impressive. He just looks.
He'll play with Dion tomorrow night. He'll start with Dion tomorrow night. He'll start with Dion tomorrow night.
Collins and Charles. Yeah, I agree. I thought Victor didn't have a particularly good game on Saturday, and that's being polite. But we all have dips in form. He was.
Well, that booking wasn't a booking, and it ruined his game. To be fair to him, you can't. We can't just say he had a poor game when something like that happens because it.
Yeah, it was for kicking out, wasn't it? And he blatantly didn't. Another poor decision, but maybe maybe taking Victor out of the spotlight a little bit. I know a lot of people have been calling to take Dion out of the spotlight, but I think Dion will. Going back to last season, innit? What was Everett's comment? He needs to get one in off his scrotum. His words, not mine.
Nice.
That's what Everett said. Similar to one needs to go in off his backside is probably the most commonly used term, but that's all he needs. That's all he needs. And I think with Collins, I think it's direct competition. You saw it on Saturday. There was some interaction between the two that looked really, really positive in terms of psychological stuff, like geeing him up.
One thing I mean, the team came out on Saturday and people moaning, saying, "Why are you spending nearly £1 million on a player and not starting him?" All that shenanigans. Well, obviously, they've only just signed him for a start off. Secondly, they need to give him time to bed into the side. And the reason why they need to give him time is because last week, and Ian Ebbett paid reference to it during the week in his press conferences, the weather at Lostock was absolutely horrendous and they hardly had any time on the grass.
Have you seen that inside match day?
Yeah, exactly. So, like, you can expect two forwards who are gunning for, getting a team promoted to hit the ground running straight away and start kind of gelling straight away. It's beyond me. You need to give these things time.
I think,
and he has done. He has done as well, to be fair to Everett.
I think we've got very, very short memories as fans, because I can recall just a few months ago how we were taking issue with the fact that we were signing players, trying to integrate them too quickly, try to apply the Everett way of playing, and they were getting injured. They were breaking. Players were breaking. They were coming into the club.
Yeah.
Excellent, great. Roll out the red carpet, and then 5 minutes later, they were injured.
Yeah.
This time around, he seems to have learned from that, and he's bedding them in slower. I mean, not better is a prime example. He came on at Carlisle, scored with his, second or third touch, and he's hardly played since. He on Saturday, I thought Ramsey looked lost. But
just rusty.
Yeah, exactly. And he made the decision at half-time to nip it in the bud and take him off. It avoids him getting injured. It avoids any sort of impact on his confidence levels. It's just sensible management. And I think the same can be said with Aaron Collins, that it's a temptation just to knock him in there.
Just because. In terms of Ramsey, he's started 2 League One games this season, 1 EFL trophy, and 2 Championship games. So, with people watching him at the weekend going, he don't look very good. He's very good. He's just very rusty.
Yeah.
What's
the situation with Better in that respect, Cole? Because obviously
they're bedding him in, aren't they? Again, it wouldn't surprise me that if he starts tomorrow on the left and Declan Cogley starts on the right, and you've got 2 flying fullbacks who Wycombe won't be able to manage.
Yeah. Despite us singing his song on Saturday, Cogley wasn't even on the bench.
And he deserves a rest more than anybody, doesn't he?
If any player does, it's him. I'm sure he'll be rejuvenated for tomorrow night. Daniel mentions finally Gethin had a good game, especially the second half. Definitely agree with that. Thought it was excellent. Communication, the way that he G'd everybody up, including the fans in that second half, is something that we've been missing. And then finally, Baxter or Coleman.
Well, pray to God it's bloody Baxter.
I thought Coleman.
Shot stopping, he looked great, but a bit suspect with his feet in it. But probably just rusty. I think his first game he started in 2 years that the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. And
the league game. Sorry.
Yeah, let's compare him to his previous counterpart in terms of second string goalkeeper. I think he's an improvement on Joel Dixon personally. And that's no disrespect to Joel Dixon. I know he's on his pelters, but I think, again, it's a step up in terms of quality.
Yeah.
As a second choice
Well,
keeper.
Yeah, he got promoted with Ipswich last season, didn't he? So,
Yeah.
good luck. Just to add very quickly to David's point, he's asked to see the Burnham Park plaque over my right shoulder. And he asked whether or not we can have that instead of Kermit the Frog. I'd love to, David. I'll be honest with you, mate. But HR makes the rules, so it's up to Ben. He decides images, he decides everything, basically. And me, Andrew, and Chris just toddle along behind him. So email us.
Yeah.
Go onto the website, get the email address, and make a request that way, because me and Chris don't have the to affect them things.
Anything that you think of that, within reason, obviously.
I actually
value.
Just whilst we're talking about my backdrop, and this was prior to the toilet humour, I actually made a bid for that Carabao Cup background that I was going to put behind me, but I lost out on the bid because I weren't willing to pay 65 quid for it or whatever it went in the end. So
is that what it went for in the end?
Something like that, yeah. That'd have been pretty cool, wouldn't it? So
yeah. But a record in the Carabao Cup's not great, is it?
Carabao crap. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
we digress.
There we go. So there ends this week's Fan Focus. Thank you again to everybody who put their comments in. I'm going to make a request, if I could, because it's becoming busier and busier every week. If you can make sure that you put your comments in the thread, as in the post that we put out on the day of the pod, it just keeps everything in the same place because I'm useless.
So don't quote.
Yeah, just make sure it goes in that thread, and it gives you a better chance of it being read out and debated. So if you could do that for me, I'd really appreciate it.
Also, guys, whilst we're on, and thank you very much to the 30-odd people who stuck around.
Phenomenal.
An over an hour show, so we do apologise. Will you let us know if any of you would like to come on the podcast? Because we're working in the background on a few bits and pieces, and we're very, very keen to get you guys involved with the podcast in some way, shape and form. But we need to get a bit of a feel for people who would actually come on and make themselves look daft like we do. So if you can let us know, that'd be really, really appreciated.
Yeah, definitely.
DM us or whatever you want to do.
Leslie asks, how's he doing? It's just brilliant. So anyway, that's Lloydis Grove.
We've only had 2 likes on this video, Chris. It's probably
come on.
Probably because you're putting comments about Lloyd bloody Isgrove up on the screen. That's probably why people aren't liking it. So,
Love it. No, thank you all for joining us. Short notice, bit of a patch-up job of a show tonight, but thank you for being there for us. It is appreciated. As I say, I will be posting a link to the Sleep Out Just Giving link. So you can all contribute.
Please.
No matter how small. It's
50p.
Appreciated. It really is. Right. There we go. 10 likes at least. There's 11. There we go. Keep them coming. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, all that stuff, and feed the algorithm, and they will score. So thank you all again. Enjoy the match tomorrow night. We'll be back on
Wednesday.
I don't know when we're back. When we're back?
Wednesday,
innit? But hopefully a 3-point pod. There'll be no sponsor shout out, David, because it's a
preview show,
a random pod, and a preview show. So thank you all again.
Whilst we're on that subject, before you go, we're actually going to put in requests out for sponsors, probably for the preview for next season. So keep your eyes peeled.
Yes, indeed. Well remembered. Right. Enjoy the game tomorrow night. We'll catch you Wednesday.
Go on, you whites.
See you later.
Ciao.